snap decisions. Of course, you should all know by now that I would have been doing this, and we're doing this because we got a balance update. An OTA came out today, and it released a little bit earlier this afternoon. So I'm going to just do this little thing here. Now, I may have another video tonight with Nick the Greek Geek as well that we'll talk a little more in depth about this, but I always do this on the channel, so I just wanted to make sure that I come out with this for you guys to listen to on the YouTubes and also, of course, on Spotify a little later on. But again, I may be doing this a little bit later with Nick. We will see, time permitting. But let's get into it, shall we? It's a pretty big patch, I would say. Not saying the changes are crazy, but there is one that I predicted a long time ago. Weeks ago, mind you, and it came to pass, and that is Arishem. Arishem got a big, hefty nerf. It is going to change the way that this card is played, and it also may change the fact that it is played at all, at least in my opinion. I tried it a little bit after the change, and it does suffer on the first two turns, and we'll get into it. So, let's read the dev's notes here. Similar to last month, December features time off for our staff, so we're only planning one OTA for the month again. The metagame is in healthy shape. There's a clear best deck in Surtur. This I didn't really believe. But look, they know the numbers, I guess, but I didn't really think Surtur was that strong. I didn't see it much in my ladder climb. But tons of other viable strategies can win at the highest level. Today's OTA will shave a little strength from the top dog and shake up a few other things along the way. So Arishem is first. At the start of the game, +1 max energy, shuffle 15 random cards into your deck. He is now same power and same 7/7. Game start. Now this is a new thing. They're going to be adding this to cards coming up. So this is going to be a new little mechanic they have here. Shuffle 12 new cards into your deck. So not 15, we're back to 12. On turn 3, get +1 max energy. So you do not get the energy on turn 1 and turn 2. So it's like you're playing a fair game on turn 1 and turn 2 with the other player. And notice it says 12 new cards. 12 new cards. What that means is no duplicates. No duplicates, so no duplicate Shang, no duplicate, whatever else they were using, Enchantress, whatever, no duplicate tech cards. So that is probably the best part of it. Since release, Arishem has been among the most played and discussed cards in the game. After some early balance, the archetype's win rate and cube rate both settled into a competitive but acceptable range. However, its play rate has continued to crest above our preferred threshold for metagame diversity. I will bet you that when that Arishem Thanos list hit the meta, they looked at this a little bit differently. They looked at it differently, I would almost bet. Because it became a top deck. It was on Glazer's list of top 10 decks. It became a top deck, and I know that they don't want that. I know that they don't want that. So that band is a little more lax in Arishem's case. The deck itself adds a lot of variety to the gameplay experience, but we've reached its limit. So we're adjusting Arishem to start giving additional energy on turn 3. In addition to removing 2 energy overall, this changes how aggressively the deck can deploy pressure. Since this is a solid nerf, we're also reverting to 12 random cards. However, in reading through frustrations around Arishem, one element that came up often was playing against cards created randomly that were also in Arishem's starting deck. Predicting Arishem is already hard, but accounting for doubles tends to make it even harder. Thank you. Yes, agreed. That aspect isn't crucial to Arishem, so we've adjusted the effect to only add cards that did not start in your deck. Lastly, you'll see above that we uploaded the text structure. We plan to make this change in 2025. Shortening start of the game triggers into a keyword, so that's the game start. And they were saying they plan to make this change next year. But they shortened the start of the game triggers to a keyword, but we're previewing it a bit early since Arishem's change was ready to go. So there you go. Arishem is, I think in many cases, going to be played a lot less. I think a lot of people are going to not like the fact that they can't get doubles anymore in the deck. You won't be able to get that double Shang and all that other kind of stuff. I think that's going to sway people away. I think they know extra energy on turns 1 and 2 is going to sway people away. So I think a lot of people are going to get a big break from this game. I played this to infinite this month, and I'm glad I kind of did, because it does not look like it's going to be. At least I don't think. I mean, a nerf this big is going to hit hard, and I don't think we're going to necessarily see it a lot more in the future. As far as Snap goes, I don't think this is going to be one of the more relevant decks now. People shy away from it just for those two reasons alone, and I just don't think that this, now newer players maybe will still play it, but I just don't think that this is going to be like one of the top decks going forward. Next up, we've got Typhoid Mary. Typhoid Mary. Now, this is what they were talking about with the Surtur deck. Ongoing, your other cards have -2 power here, and now it is ongoing, your other cards have, I'm sorry, -1 power. Now it's -2 power. So she hurts a little more. Since we shifted Typhoid Mary to focus the drawback on one location, Mary's seen a big surge in play and win rate, fueling variations of the Surtur shell. Surtur is still the clear best deck, so we want to weaken some of its core slightly, but many of the cards don't have wiggle room given the significance of 10 power and specific of their effects. We could revert Typhoid Mary, but choose to pursue this middle ground instead, given the new design was more fun to play with. Well, I don't know if it's going to matter that much, because I think most of these decks have Luke Cage, or at least more recently they have Luke Cage. So I don't know that this is necessarily going to mean a whole lot to the deck, because a lot of them were just playing with Luke Cage anyway. So, and again, I don't necessarily see, I must be in a different metagame than what they're seeing, because I'm not seeing the Surtur deck as much. I see it every now and then, but I don't see it as often, at least as I used to when Surtur first came out. So, but, you know, again, I'm not going to argue their numbers. Their numbers are numbers. So, next up, oh boy, Eliath is getting another change, going back to a 6/9. They're taking a point of power off of him. Similarly, Eliath is unnecessarily providing some extra tools to a strong Surtur strategy. We use Eliath as a fairly specific kind of tool, and churning its strength is one of the ways we can create fluctuation within the metagame. It doesn't need any special help to earn the right slots. So poor Eliath is going back down, reverting back again to a 6/9. You know, again, with the Surtur lists that I played, I never played Eliath in my lists. So, you know, I was playing Typhoid Mary, Scar, I can't remember the others now off the top of my head, but, you know, the normal 10s, Crossbones, that kind of stuff. I was never playing Eliath. So, but I guess that's the one they're talking about, and I guess the one they're talking about had Eliath in it, but in any case, Eliath takes the hit and goes back to a 6/9. Enchantress is getting a buff. On reveal, remove the abilities, all ongoing cards stays the same, just going to a 4/6. Since the last time we experimented with this improvement to Enchantress, a fair bit has changed, including how often people play Enchantress. That's noteworthy because several strong ongoing cards are current pillars of the metagame. U.S. Agent, Darkhawk, Quinjet, Gore, and Morbius. At least, the Rogue has been doing a lot of heavy lifting lately, and we do want Enchantress to also serve as an effective dial, so more power is warranted. Yeah, Rogue has been played a little bit more because of the discard list, and I'm kind of shocked, talking about discard, that there is nothing from discard here. Kind of shocked at that. I literally thought we would see discard get a little bit of a nerf, or a nerf this in this patch, but apparently they're not seeing that, and I see a lot of discard in my metagame, and it is very, very, very powerful and very hard to stop. So I guess they're not seeing that, but Enchantress is good against those decks because at least she can stop the Morbius. The Gore lists as well. Darkhawk's not being played so much. Quinjet in Arishem, but if you're getting rid of Arishem, that's probably not going to see much play anymore. And U.S. Agent, yeah, U.S. Agent's being played a good amount too. But in any case, Enchantress is going to a 4/6. I'm wondering if there is an upcoming bundle with Enchantress. I kind of remember them being one, but maybe I'm wrong. Next up is Black Widow is getting a little bit more of a nerf. Activate a Widow's Bite to your opponent's hand. It was 3/4, it's now going to a 3/3. Says shifting Black Widow to activate didn't weaken her as much as we expected. It's possible the Grandmaster shenanigans were a distraction, and these decks are better when they're more focused. Since we did still want to wind up with a Black Widow nerf, we're reverting the stats back to 3/3. Okay, so again, I think it was the Grandmaster thing that people were using her primarily for. She's in the Goon Knight deck, as well. But yeah, I again, I don't know that this is going to matter all that much. I don't see it all that much. In fact, I took her out of the Goon Knight deck that I played and replaced her in Mobius to oppose the negative decks that are out there. So yeah, okay. Frigga is going up to a 3/4. On reveal, add a copy of the last card you played to your hand if able. Just gets a point of power going to a 3/4. We were conservative with Frigga because cards that copy other cards can multiply other buffs in unpredictable ways. Given Frigga has turned out to need some more strength, some extra power may help Frigga find a more consistent home. Yeah, of all the cards that we got last month, she's probably the least one played. I don't play her at all. And from seeing people play her is not that often either. So yeah, I could see them. They usually do this. If they see a card that's weak from the prior month, they will try to improve it by giving it a point of power. So, okay. Next up, we have an oldie but goodie here. Shuri. Shuri's getting a buff. She's going from a 4/1 to a 4/3. How the times have changed. Once a metagame tyrant, Shuri fell to the bottom range of our win rates for individual cards last week. Given the card supports unique gameplay flows, we wanted to restore a bit of glory to it now that a range of archetypes are capable of competing with its power output. So they want to bring Shuri back. Sure, why not? Bring Shuri back. Yeah, nothing wrong with those lists. You just don't see a lot of them anymore because, Gore is outpowering them and Surtur is outpowering. A lot of other decks are just outpowering the list. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing them played maybe a little differently. Maybe you put in Galacta in those decks, and maybe you buff that Red Skull even higher if you're going to play that, or maybe you're going to buff the other 10s you're going to play, or maybe you're going to buff a Vision even higher with Galacta, and then hit it with Shuri. Yeah, okay. I'm maybe it'll give you a fun little different way to play Shuri. So sure, why not? Let's get back to some Shuri in Marvel Snap. Sure. Lockjaw gets a buff, going from a 4/4 to a 4/5, same ability. Uncapping Lockjaw swaps brought Lockjaw back to life, but there's room for a little more. One major element holding Lockjaw back has been the continued success of Darkhawk decks, which threaten to incidentally shut Lockjaw down. But that's not the only bad matchup. A point of power will help Lockjaw more often hold its own. And again, I don't see Lockjaw much at all in my little corner of the meta. I don't see it much at all. In fact, really all I ever see it is sometimes in Thanos and with those Thor decks that you see so very few. So, okay, again, and okay, 1 point of power. It's not that big of a deal to me. Stormbreaker's changing. Speaking of the Thor's decks, going from a 0/1 to a 0/3. So just a couple points of power to Stormbreaker itself. The Asgard deck that leans on Jane Foster to consistently buff Thor and Beta Ray Bill to heights is one of our more novel and creatively satisfying decks. As such, we want it to be a solid contender in competitive metagames. However, the deck has fallen on hard times, and Beta Ray Bill was one of the weaker pieces. A 7th power for Bill would buff the base rate while also being doubled alongside Stormbreaker, which is a bit more strength than we want to add right now. Distributing some power to the axe is a nice middle ground. So they didn't do anything to Beta Ray Bill, but they buffed the axe a little bit. So again, don't really see much of this. Even with King Eitri, I haven't seen many of these decks at all. They're certainly not high meta decks, I don't think. I didn't see many of them at all. And yeah, so I mean, maybe people will start to play them a little more. I don't know, but yeah, it's definitely not a meta thing right now. Maybe the 2 extra points of power, will that help? I don't know. This one's an interesting one. Probably the biggest buff here. Cerebro is going to a 2/0 instead of a 3/0. Same ability ongoing. Your highest power cards have +2. We love Cerebro. It's a novel deck that challenges deck building prowess. But with the recent uptick in strategies using strong ongoing cards, it suffered a bit of splash damage along the way. OTA changes also often impact Cerebro, forcing the deck to adapt constantly. This is a pretty big change, but it might just be what Cerebro needs. I know, no big deal from the podcast is going to love this. He's a huge Cerebro player, probably one of the only ones that I know. But he's gonna love this change. I was talking to them a little bit earlier from, of course, the kid and No Big Deal and How Can She Snap podcast. But yeah, I don't know if there's any cerebral lovers out there. Is this gonna make you want to play it more? Maybe. Can get it out a little bit earlier and stuff like that. It'd be a little bit easier to get the mystique and stuff out, maybe. Um, I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see if this brings a Cerebro deck back into the meta. The We Love Cerebro comment kind of got me a little bit. I'm wondering about that too because I don't know. You don't see too much of it going around, and you don't see it much played at all. So if this is the first time they're trying to get it into the meta, if they love it so much, but we'll see. Never been a big fan of the deck type, and I'm sure I probably won't play it. But yeah. And last but not least is Elsa Bloodstone. And she's going from a 3/3 to a 3/4. Elsa's been kind of forgotten because they have a better Elsa in Galacta. So last but not least, we're giving Elsa Bloodstone additional point of power. There's a lot of competition among 3-cost build-arounds right now, and we want Elsa fighting on even ground. And then it says, happy Winterverse to all. That's all for this week. Until next time, happy snapping. So there you go. We got, all in all, we got a big old nerf to Arishem, a nerf to Typhoid Mary, a nerf to Eliath, and then we got a nerf to Black Widow. We got a buff for Enchantress, a buff for Frigga, a buff for Shuri, a buff for Lockjaw, a buff for Stormbreaker, a buff for Cerebro, and a buff for Elsa Bloodstone. So a lot more buffs than nerfs, which a lot of people have tended to say that they like that better. And yeah, I don't know what people are really going to say about it. I don't know if they're going to say that it was an overwhelming list of changes. A lot of times when buff more cards, it makes it a little more interesting because you might see some of these deck types get played a little more, especially like the Cerebro and things like that. Elsa, I still don't know whether she's going to get played because Galactus is just better. Galacta is just a better card. So I'm not so sure that people are going to want Elsa and Galacta in the same deck. I don't know if they do that. The Stormbreaker thing, I don't know that that's going to make people play the Thor's decks anymore. Lockjaw, again, same thing. A lot of these are just cards you don't see. Shuri, I'm interested in. I may try it. I used to like playing Shuri decks, and now that I'm at Infinite and I don't give a damn about my rank, I may just try it and see what happens. Maybe play it with some different cards. Like the Vision list was always a pretty good one. Maybe have a Galacta in there. Again, like I said, make Vision an 11. And then you can double it with Shuri and make it a 22 that moves around the board. Do you imagine? Yeah, so that interests me. I might try that because I used to like playing Shuri. Frigga, I still doubt I'll play. Black Widow, again, I don't play it. I didn't even play it in the deck she was in. Enchantress, I just don't know. I don't know if a 4/6 is good enough to get her into lists. And yeah, those cards they named, like US Agent, Darkhawk. I mean, US Agent, the only time you want to get him out of there is if you're playing like a toxic deck. Darkhawk, I haven't been seeing much. He's in the maybe they're talking about seeing it because he's in the Goon Knight deck, but that's not the normal Darkhawk type list. That Darkhawk doesn't get very big. It usually only ends up being like 9 points. But maybe that's what made them think that Darkhawk is prominent. Quinjet, are you gonna wait till turn 4 to disenchant a Quinjet with Enchantress? I don't know. Like you're already kind of past the point, right? Gore maybe on a turn 6, like if they play their Gore on a turn 5, you can get it. But again, Morbius is the only card I see in here. They're talking Morbius, from the discard. That's the only card I really see here that it would do really well against. So I don't know that that's going to really change people's mind about Enchantress. Eliath is still going to be played. You can make it a 6/10 and 6/9, 6/8. It's not going to matter. Eliath is just used for what it is. And it'll still get played. And besides, now it's in decks with Galacta, so it's making it a 6/12 anyway. So it's still going to be played. Typhoid Mary, yeah, you might end up seeing this taken out of Surtur decks, but I don't know. I don't know that Typhoid Mary means much. You could just play another 10 card. A lot of people play Arrow in those decks, and you probably just play Arrow. But Arishem is the biggest thing in this whole thing and in this whole change. And Arishem, I had, like I said, I had known that Arishem was going to get changed. It was too prominent. It was too popular. It was too much in the meta, and I knew the change was coming. And I'm not at all surprised that it did, and it got hammered pretty good. So I really think that this is going to make people play it less. Again, maybe newer players will still play it, maybe in Conquest and stuff. I don't know, but I definitely don't think you're going to be seeing this in the meta much at all anymore. It took a lot of its big things away. No early edge. You're not going to get out an early edge anymore because you're not going to be able to get that extra energy until turn 3. And you're also not getting duplicates. And that was one of the biggest things about it, that you were getting duplicates. So, all right, guys, that is it for this little episode of Snap Decisions. I got to get going because I got another podcast I have to do. Again, Nick and I are going to be doing this probably in much more detail. I just wanted to get this out there for you guys because I always do, and it's been kind of just a tradition with me. Yeah, and you got to see my geek shelf. Look at that. Yeah, there's my Darth Vader and my Garfield and my big Jason head. Tomorrow's Friday 13th, so yay. And there you can see KK Slider and all that stuff and my Funko Pops, and going down, you can see Jaws a little bit on the side and Tron and Man-Thing. Look at Man-Thing in the middle. And yeah, so you got to see my geek shelf a little bit, which you don't normally do. But that is going to do it for this episode of Snap Decisions. Again, please make sure to check out my videos from Tuesday, of course, Tuesday's pod, which I went over a lot of things. Also my video with Nick the Greek Geek, which is out there right now, both on audio and video. That we talked about the February season, the Brave New World season, and we also talked about some variants and all that cool stuff. So check that out as well. They are both out there right now on Spotify and to listen to on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and they're also on the YouTube page. So check them out. And then, of course, be watching for Nick and I will be having the Two Dudes Snapping episode coming out, and then more than likely we'll also be having an episode coming out about today's OTA as well. So check them all out. I will be talking to you guys very, very soon. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy Snap. Have fun with it. And always different after the OTA changes. And let me know in the comments what you think of this OTA. What was your favorite thing that you saw from this? And maybe your least favorite thing. And do you think that this is going to destroy, wiped out, kill Arishem for at least the time being? All right, guys. Have a great one. This is your Snap DJ for the day. Signing off. Have a great one, guys. See you soon.